Hey Susan, welcome to Meet the Boss Junior. Today I'm speaking with you, Susan Pearce, Secretary of New South Wales Health Department. First question, you might know I love cars. What's your favorite car?
Well, look, I'm old, so I've had a lot of cars in my lifetime. I think my most memorable car was a sunburnt orange Datsun 180B when I was a much younger person. It was actually my mother's car, but I used to drive it around town where I grew up. And it certainly was quite the machine, and probably worth a fortune now if it was still in good order. But yeah, that's probably the one that I think I will always remember from my many cars that I've had in my life.
Think back to when you were a kid. What did you want to do when you grew up?
Well, believe it or not, I always wanted to be a nurse. And so when I was growing up, and certainly in those days, so I was in high school in the 1980s, and we still did work experience then. And I did nursing as my work experience placement when I was in year 9 or 10, I can't remember. And so, yeah, so I always wanted to be a nurse, and that's what I did when I left school. Part of the reason for that was that I had an auntie who had a nursing background, and also, and this is a bit weird, I really liked the smell of hospitals. And so, that's what I ended up doing.
I want to hear all about your work, but first tell me your story. How did you become a CEO?
Well, I think like a lot of people, and certainly a lot of women who progress into more senior roles, I certainly never set out to be a chief executive, or in my case, more commonly referred to as Secretary of New South Wales Health, but it's like being a CEO. I was a nurse to begin with, as I said, and I spent the first 10 years of my working life in a place called Broken Hill, which is a long way from where we are now, right out in Western New South Wales. And I learned a lot out there, and I became involved in lots of different things, which gave me the opportunity to take a job in Sydney. And I came over here many years ago now, and I've done lots of different things. So I worked for the Nurses Association for about 8.5 years, and while I was doing that job, I got interested in the law, and I went on to study law, and I've been admitted to the court as a solicitor, but I don't practice in the law, but I have that qualification. I then left there, and I came back into the health system as a workforce director, and in a very large metropolitan district here in Sydney. And then I was a director of operations at a local health district, so responsible for the day-to-day operational management of the local health district. I came to the ministry, or I think it was still the ministry then, as the Chief Nursing and Midwifery Officer for the state of New South Wales back in 2012. And from there, I became a Deputy Secretary, and I performed that role, responsible again for the operational performance of the health system for quite a long time. And I think probably have the record for the length of time I spent in that job. It's about 6.5 years, which is a long time because it's a 24/7 job. And then finally in March this year, I had the great honour of becoming the Secretary of New South Wales Health. So that's a bit of a background to how I ended up in this job, Liam.
How is a secretary different to a CEO? Who do you report to?
Well, I guess a lot of CEOs, everybody's still got a boss somewhere for the most part. And so CEOs often will have a board to report to, for example. In my case, I have a reporting line to the Premier of New South Wales. But on a day-to-day basis, of course, I report to the Health Minister and also the Minister for Regional New South Wales Mental Health and the Minister for Women. So you know, two day-to-day bosses in the form of both of those ministers, Minister Hazzard and Minister Taylor, and also through to the Premier. So it's a slightly different arrangement for me than other CEOs.
Tell me about your organism. What is your product and who are your customers?
Well, we have a very large organisation and a very large operating budget that goes with it. So the New South Wales Health System is an organisation that has a budget of around $30 billion a year. Really our main and core function is to provide healthcare to the people of this state. And beyond sometimes. And so that is always going to be our core responsibility, to provide safe, reliable healthcare to our community. And you know, we also do lots of other things that are really interesting. We have one of the best health systems in the world here in New South Wales, and some of the brightest people in the world who work within our hospitals and our health services, coming up with new ways of doing things. So it's such a wonderful organisation to be part of, and for those who've been in it for as long as I have, so you know, more than 3 decades now, 34 years since I first started nursing. I love the health system and everything that it delivers for our community and also for our wonderful staff, because it's thanks to them that the health system is as good as it is.
So what do you love most about your job?
Well, I love the people. So the people are what makes a difference for us, and that's the same in most organisations. I love the fact that we have a strong purpose to make the lives of people in our communities better, and whether that's when they're really sick, whether it's helping to prevent them from being sick. It's such a strong purpose and something that delivers so much to so many people. And I really love the fact that we have got around 170,000 people who work for New South Wales Health, and each and every one of those people come to work every day to do a better job for their community. And I think that's an amazing organisation to be part of, and that I'm very proud to be the leader of.
So what's the hardest thing about your job?
Look, there are lots of challenges. You know, health systems are always under pressure to deliver more and to do better, and we try our hardest every single day to do that for our community. It's really important to us that we continue to strive for improvement, and not just rest on our laurels or you know, take our eye off the areas that require the strongest focus. Sometimes when we let people down in our health system and things don't go as well as had been planned, that can be very hard and very sad. And we try to learn from any mistakes that we make and do our very best to make sure that they don't happen again. So look, for the most part, it's an incredibly rewarding job, and one, as I said to you, that, you know, we're all very happy to be involved in, because I know that when my time comes to retire, I'll be able to look back on my working life and feel that I made a significant contribution to our community, and I think that's something that I can be proud of.
So what's one piece of advice for me as I think about starting my own company?
Well, I think for the most part, and I think somebody's told you this before because I've seen some of your videos already, if you do something that you really enjoy, it does make life a lot easier from a work perspective. So you've got to follow your own heart in terms of what is important to you, and having a sense of purpose is something from my perspective that makes a difference. There's lots of jobs that you could do, but if you can find your purpose in the work that you choose to do, that makes all the difference.
Looks like that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for coming on this show and sharing your story. Best of luck with your future.
Thank you so much, Liam. It was lovely to talk to you.